What's up, everybody? Jack Farr here on behalf of Box to Box Football with an update to my power rankings, a weekly update on my power rankings. It's been a mad couple of match days. This is probably the most change that my power rankings will ever see, if we're being totally honest. Without any further ado, let's get into it. So, in at 20, new entry, we've got Sevilla. 4 wins out of the last 5. A game in hand as well. Lopetegui might have something going here in La Liga. Now, I don't really expect them to be challenging for the title, but I don't think finishing in the top 4 is too far out of the reach, especially with their recent form going forward. In at 19, I've got Manchester City dropping 2 places. Manchester United at home this year have been abysmal. City really should have taken advantage of that, taken the game to them. The game was a draw. Both sides seemed happy with the draw. It's definitely a better result for Manchester United than it is for Man City. 2 wins followed by 2 draws. Only 1 game in hand now. If they win it, they'll be up to 5th. Not really the kind of form that Man City will want, but still going undefeated, not losing games, but they're only just hanging on to this top 20 list by a thread, really. In at 18, down 5 spots is Juventus. Win, draw, win, draw, win, draw. This is incredibly frustrating if you're a Juventus fan. They're undefeated. But out of 12 games, 6 wins and 6 draws is not good enough. A certain Mr. Cristiano Ronaldo is really kind of pulling them along single-handedly almost, and he's not going to be very happy with the way things are going under Andrea Pirlo. It's obviously a very new look Juventus side, and there's going to be a lot of squad changes over the next 18 months or so. So we'll see what happens. But I've got them in 18th, dropping 5 spots. In at 17, new entry, showing a bit of love to the Primera Liga again. Sporting Lisbon. Undefeated this season. Out of 9 games, they've won 7, drawn 2. Solid showing. Just wanted to show a little love to Sporting Lisbon. Obviously, credit where credit's due, even though it is in a slightly weaker league. In at 16, similar to Sporting Lisbon, really, I've got Ajax. 10 wins out of 12. They're top of the Eredivisie table. Yet again, just trying to show some love to some weaker leagues with some teams playing very, very well in those leagues. In at 15, this is the biggest drop I've actually had, I think, ever. I know it's only been a few weeks, but it is still ever. Chelsea. 2 losses on the bounce. It's not going to put you, in a favourable position when it comes to this list. I really appreciated Frank Lampard's comments after the game, talking about this young, new squad, maybe believing their own hype, looking at the table a little too much and thinking they're playing well. You get into a position where if you think that you're playing well, performances start to dip. You've got to keep yourself motivated. You've got to keep yourself going. Tough draw against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League, but they need to get a win soon, or else the kind of ascendancy that Chelsea were on might start to falter a little bit. In at 14, up 2 spots, I have Manchester United. 4 wins on the bounce, followed by that 0-0 draw against Manchester City. With their home form the way it's been, you have to consider a home draw against Manchester City actually a good result for them. There's 2 games in hand. If they win their 2 games in hand, they would actually be second in the Premier League table. So, crisis? What crisis? In at 13, up 2 spots, I have Rangers. Another win, loads of goals scored, not many goals conceded, fantastic goal difference, winning loads and loads of games. They're dominating their league, and that has to be respected. The reason why they've kind of gone up this week is purely because the teams around them have kind of dipped off a little bit, and they've retained their level. Obviously, we can thank James for having Rangers in at all. He kind of pushed me or nudged me into this position. In at 12, another new addition, and deservedly so. Maybe they should have been kind of lingering in the late teens in previous ones, but we've got Lille. They've reclaimed top spot in Liga, stringing some wins together after kind of strong early form, some spotty form over the last 3 or 4 weeks or so, but then recently really bringing it back. So Lille at 12. Excuse me. In at 11, I have Lyon. They're up 2 spots. They beat PSG in the game before last, and they've been unbeaten since mid-September. I know Lille are ahead of them in the table, but obviously this is done more on kind of form. It's power rankings, and that will change according to the way teams play. So I do have Lyon in 11th. 10, another huge drop-off is Spurs. A disappointing late loss to Liverpool. They did actually play very well. I know people wouldn't strictly be a huge fan of the football they play, but you do still have to say, with a couple of the chances Spurs had, it fair result would have probably been a draw, but they could have easily won the game. And then after that, the draw with Palace. Kane's goal was actually very lucky, so you could even argue that maybe they should have lost that game as well. They're down 7 places in 10th. In at 9, I've got Milan. They're down 5 spots. Yeah, two draws on the bounce against not particularly talented teams. I believe it's Genoa and Parma, I believe the 2 draws are against. Based on their form this year, they should really be beating these kind of teams, and if they want to kind of mount a proper title challenge and beat out the likes of Juventus, who are probably going to come back strong at some point, these are the games they need to be winning. So Milan in 9. In at 8, storming their way, first time on this power rankings, is Real Madrid. 3 wins on the bounce, game in hand, and more importantly, beating Atletico Madrid, handing them their first loss of the season in the Madrid derby. Very important game for Zinedine Zidane and that Real Madrid team. I think they're going to probably start rolling a little more now and looking to be in a pretty good spot in La Liga after some good results in a row. In at 7, up 4 places, I have Inter Milan. 5 wins in a row. 1 point off the top of the table. Conte's definitely got into rolling a little more now. The most recent win was against kind of a recovering, dangerous Napoli side. Obviously the 4-0 win against Roma after Diego Maradona's sad passing. But yeah, they definitely look better in recent weeks, and Inter are going to certainly make strides to make a title challenge in Serie A this year. Sick, holding their spot is Liverpool. As I'm even saying this, maybe Liverpool should be a little higher. But nice victory against Spurs. Obviously, I can't ignore the 1-1 draw against Fulham. And obviously, they were kind of lucky, actually, to beat Spurs in the end. Spurs had some great opportunities. And Liverpool could have easily lost that game or drawn that game. But top of the league in the Premier League, especially despite some major injuries that they've had over the course of this season, still very impressive. But I just can't ignore a couple of those things there. Bayern Munich are 5th, dropping 4 spots. First time they're not number 1 in my power rankings. The Union Berlin draw was unacceptable. The Leipzig draw you could maybe justify. Leipzig are a good team. But for a team such as Bayern, if they really are the best team in the world at this point, they really should be, winning these kind of games, especially the Union Berlin game. It just sees them drop. That's all. In at 4, probably not many Bayern fans wanting to see this. RB Leipzig are up 5 places. Same record as Bayern now. Following, I'm reading my notes here. Following the Bayern draw and the Champions League success, Leipzig will be certainly up there and a real threat in the Bundesliga for the rest of the year. And even in knockout competitions, they're going to be dangerous. January coming around, they're going to get Dominik Szoboszlai, I believe the pronunciation is, from Salzburg, the other Red Bull team in Austria. So that's massive as well. In at 3, up 5 spots. This is a team potentially I have maybe too high as I'm kind of reading it now and looking at my notes. Marseille, they're up 5 places. Look, despite their recent loss against Rennes, they did have 10 men. You can't deny, with 2 games in hand, if they do win those 2 games in hand, they would actually be top of Liga. Spurs has them playing very, very well. And I just think, credit where credit's due at this point for this Marseille team. In at 2, Bayer Leverkusen. Undefeated. 8 wins, 4 draws, top of the Bundesliga, ahead of the likes of Leipzig, Bayern, Borussia Dortmund. They've had a rough week, but Bayer Leverkusen look really, really good and really, really strong. And if they keep beating the teams that they should beat, they might push Bayern Munich and Leipzig for the title this year. You never know. In at number 1, still retaining their spot, they're up 1 place in this kind of higher echelon of teams, is Atletico Madrid. They're really number 1 on my power rankings more because the teams around them on my previous week's list did not do so well. So I look at, Chelsea and Spurs and Milan and Bayern and these kind of guys. They haven't played well recently. And okay, Atletico Madrid did lose to a kind of a surging now Real Madrid team. But they're still top of the league. They've still got games in hand. And I just don't feel comfortable putting Bayer Leverkusen, Marseille or Leipzig number one in my power rankings at the moment. I think Atletico Madrid still just about justify their spot on this list. So guys, let me know your thoughts. A lot of teams have fallen off this list. A lot of new teams on this list. Teams that were right up at the top have fallen down. Teams that were right near the bottom have shot up. Let me know what you think. It's been a really crazy couple of match days, hence why there's been this huge change in my power rankings. I'm looking at -10s and +7s and +5s and all this kind of stuff in terms of the spots. Let me know what you think. It seems like all the big teams seem to be losing or drawing at the moment, and some of the more, less known teams are really kind of pulling results out. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please like, share, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.